How you doing, guys? Today I would like to talk to you about double standards. Double standards within the police force, Merseyside Police Force in particular in this instance. I had a ping on my mobile phone yesterday. It was quite late. I didn't check my Twitter notifications until quite late last night, so I'm doing the video today, and today is the 26th of May 2019. I was having a look through the notifications from the Liverpool Echo newspaper, and there was two stories that jumped out at me, so I thought I'd check them out. And I'm quite disturbed by the double standards that are shown by Merseyside Police. This first story: CCTV shows brave female shop worker smack knife man in head with baseball bat. Katarzyna Gurgle, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, but said she reacted in the split second the would-be robber was distracted by a doorbell. So let's first watch this video.
Give me the money, I'll cut you. Give me the money. We don't have any money. Give me the money.
Okay, so you see there quite clearly somebody comes and threatens the lady with a knife. Not a situation anybody should be faced with. However, she protects herself by picking up a baseball bat, which is behind the counter. And she then proceeds to hit the guy, and it states in this article, which I'll go through, that she hit him in the head with a baseball bat. Okay. So this is the moment a knife-wielding robber was smacked in the head with a baseball bat by a brave but terrified shop worker. Katarzyna Gurgle, 32, said she thought about making it home to see her 10-year-old son when she hit the thug so hard the bat made a very loud noise against his skull. Miss Gurgle was working in Jim's News on Fountains Road, Kirkdale, when the armed man walked in around 10:45 AM on Wednesday, but the thug, armed with a huge kitchen knife, let his guard down for a split second, giving Miss Gurgle the opportunity to send him packing. Merseyside Police are now hunting for the suspect. Miss Gurgle told the Echo it was a normal day. There was a moment of quiet, so I went into the stock room in the back to get some stuff, and I heard the noise when the customers come through the door. I went into the shop and there was a tall, skinny guy in a grey tracksuit with the hood pulled tight over his face. I could only see his eyes. Miss Gurgle initially thought it was a customer playing a prank, but soon realised she was the victim of an attempted robbery. She says, he said, "Give me the money, give me the money." I said, "Is this a joke?" Because there are some weird people, and sometimes the customers say, "Give me all the money," as a joke. But he said, "Give me the fucking money or I will cut you," and he took out a knife. The stunned mum said she realised all the money in the till had recently been picked up by a delivery driver, leaving it empty, and feared the knife man's reaction. She said, "I was scared if I told him it was empty, he would do something. I looked to my left and to my right, and that's when I saw the baseball bat. I thought, that's my only chance." There was a noise from the door that distracted him for a second. When he turned to look if someone was coming in, this is the only one chance to scare him. I hit him in the head with the bat and it made a very loud noise. I thought he would fall down, but he ran out of the shop and I chased him. Miss Gurgle said the thought of her family gave her the courage to strike the man. She said, "I thought of my son at home and my family, and I thought, you need to protect yourself." The robber fled in the direction of Mare Green Road, leaving Miss Gurgle to realise the danger she had just escaped. She said, "I started crying and shaking, and I gave my phone to a woman who had just come in and told her to call my partner. We called the police straight away and they were brilliant. They came within 5 to 10 minutes and they were looking for him." Miss Gurgle's boyfriend, Stephen Higgins, told the Echo he found her crying and shaking from the effects of the incident. Miss Gurgle said, "It was very, very scary. I am scared now every time I hear the door when a customer comes in." So this lady here, she was working in a shop. Somebody came in, threatened her with a knife, tried to rob her, and she hit him round the head with a baseball bat. I think we can probably all agree that that is something that we would all do in that situation. If we're faced with somebody with a knife and we're threatened with our life, I think we would all agree that defending ourselves, if we can, is the only option, okay? And if that means hurting the other person in order to do that using reasonable force, then so be it. The dog is snoring again. I am terribly sorry. I promise you, once we've got 1 million subscribers, I'll kit out my spare room and I'll have a studio. So I'm sorry. So anyway, so that is the story of Miss Gurgle, who was working in Kirkdale and protected herself against an armed robber with a knife. Now, there is absolutely nothing in that story that suggests that she is being investigated for hitting the guy when clearly it's all on camera. As you would expect, you wouldn't expect the police, and we understand, you understand, that they do sometimes, they will arrest the victim for protecting themselves. In this case, it would appear that the victim, Miss Gurgle, has not been arrested or charged with anything. And I agree, if you're protecting yourself, you shouldn't be. But this is Merseyside Police we're talking about. You know, the police force that threaten people with a non-existent Section 44 of the Terrorism Act, and who will continually harass and surround people who are doing lawful activities. That story was published yesterday, the 25th of May 2019, at originally 7:26 in the evening. Now let's move on to this one. Think about the headlines as well. Think about the headlines. CCTV shows brave female shop worker smack knife man in head with baseball bat. Now let's have a look at this one. Teenager stabbed with own knife after attacking man on street. Now straight away, the headlines of these two stories conjure up completely different scenarios. If you haven't read the story and you only saw those headlines, you would have a scenario in your head already, and those are going to be completely contradicting each other. So this one, a man in his 40s has been arrested on suspicion of wounding with intent. A teenager was reportedly stabbed with his own knife after confronting a man in a quiet street. The 15-year-old boy is being treated in hospital for a head injury and a minor puncture wound to his leg after the incident in Aquarius Close, Dovecot, at around 6 p.m. A man in his 40s has been arrested by Merseyside Police on suspicion of wounding with intent to cause grievous bodily harm, and officers could be seen examining the front driveway of a house. However, witnesses to the incident claimed the boy had bounced along the street carrying a large dagger-like knife tucked into his tracksuit. One neighbour said he had disarmed the boy after he confronted the man. He said, "I grabbed him from behind and took him to the floor. He got a bang on his head and a few cuts, but it was from his own knife. He came up with the knife. It was self-defence." Another witness, who did not wish to be named, told the Echo, "I could see him bouncing down the road and he had the knife in his waistband. He walked up to the other fella who was outside his house and started shouting, then it all kicked off. He pulled the knife out, then a neighbour grabbed him from behind and took him to the floor and they disarmed him. He ran off and it looked like he was bleeding from somewhere. He had blood on his hands and face. When I first saw him, I was worried he had a gun, to be honest. Nothing like this has ever happened around here before." The witness said the boy had limped back towards Taurus Road by the junction with East Prescott Road, where he was taken to hospital via ambulance. Forensic scientists could be seen taking pictures of the scene, which had been cordoned off with police tape. Merseyside Police confirmed an investigation was underway after the alleged assault on the 15-year-old boy. A spokeswoman said officers were called to an address on Aquarius Close, Dovecot, just after 6 p.m. today, following reports the teenager had suffered a head injury and a minor puncture wound to the leg. The teenager had been taken to hospital. His injuries are not believed to be life-threatening. a man in his 40s was arrested on suspicion of Section 18 wounding. An investigation into the incident is underway and house-to-house inquiry is being carried out in the local area. Okay, so let's just recap. A 15-year-old lad is bouncing, as they say, down the street with a dagger-like knife in his waistband on his tracksuit. He then confronts a 40-year-old man outside his house and pulls the knife out, threatening him. The man then disarms the boy and takes him to the ground, where the boy is cut. Okay, now it says in the title stabbed with his own knife, but from reading it, it just says as he fell over, he banged his head and suffered some cuts. Now maybe he fell on the knife, or maybe it wasn't the knife at all. Maybe it was something on the floor. I don't know. We can only go on what is in this article at the moment. But he disarmed the guy, the lad. The man disarmed the lad who was threatening him with a knife, and witnesses have even said that as well. And the man who was threatened with a knife is being investigated under suspicion of Section 18 wounding. Now, if we have a look at Section 18, Offences Against the Person Act 1861, shooting or attempting to shoot or wounding with intent to do grievous bodily harm. Whosoever shall unlawfully and maliciously by any means whatsoever wound or cause any grievous bodily harm to any person with intent to do some grievous bodily harm to any person, or with intent to resist or prevent the lawful apprehension or detainer of any person, shall be guilty of felony, and being convicted thereof shall be liable to be kept in penal servitude for life. And this is the latest. Look, this is the latest version, and the original, as enacted, says whosoever shall unlawfully and maliciously by any means whatsoever wound or cause any grievous bodily harm to any person, or shoot at any person, or by drawing a trigger, or in any other manner attempts to discharge any kind of loaded arms at a person with intent, in any of the cases aforesaid, to maim, disfigure, or disable any persons, or to do some other grievous bodily harm to any person, or with intent to resist or prevent the lawful apprehension or detainer of any person, shall be guilty of felony, and being convicted thereof shall be liable at the discretion of the court to be kept in penal servitude for life, or for any term not less than 3 years, or to be imprisoned for any term not exceeding 2 years, with or without hard labour, and with or without solitary confinement. So I'm glad they've changed that and taken out the hard labour and solitary confinement part, because, you know, we have to appease all of the apologists out there. So the latest, obviously the latest available version, states here that the guy who was simply protecting himself from a knife-wielding teenager, don't care how old he is, that makes no fucking difference whatsoever. He's wielding a knife with the intent of frightening, at the very least, with the intent of causing alarm, harassment and distress, at the very, very least, okay? The guy who was being threatened disarmed the 15-year-old lad, took him to the floor where the lad got cut. And now the man is being investigated for Section 18 wounding, which guilty of a felony, and being convicted thereof shall be liable to be kept in penal servitude for life. Yet, we have here a situation where similar circumstances, but the lady, and I'm not suggesting that, the police should deal with this lady the same way as they're dealing with the man. Okay, so let me clear that up. I believe that the man who was protecting himself should be dealt with the same way as this lady. But what I'm saying is, this lady, actually, even though it was a split seconds, even though, there was only a few seconds for her to think, she thought about picking up the bat, and then she picked up the bat and she hit the guy, okay? Whereas the man in the street, literally, from witness statements as well, was confronted by a boy with a knife. He disarmed the boy and took him to the ground, all right, and where the boy was cut. And yet he is being investigated for something which could be minimum of 3 years, going on that legislation, for example, with a maximum of life. How the fuck can Merseyside Police honestly have any kind of, I don't even know what to say. I think I'm disgusted by the fact that you know, two similar incidents are being treated so completely different. Absolutely, right? And we don't know if that lad in the street was trying to rob the man. Okay, that could have been an armed robbery itself, you know. We don't know that. We can only go on the information that we have, and what the information is what is printed in the Echo newspaper. But for the Echo newspaper to do headlines which would conjure up completely different scenarios in the reader's mind, and yet to happily say, you know, oh, this brave woman who beat somebody around the head with a baseball bat, and then some bloke stabbed a kid with his own knife. That's basically what they're saying, you know, and it is wrong. It's wrong. I can't understand how the police can actually have any kind of respect from anybody when they do not treat incidents the same. I understand that there are different scenarios, and there's always, you know, like, you know, something might be in litigation, for example, of the incident, but ultimately this woman here was threatened with a knife in her shop, to which she picked up a bat and hit the guy. Whereas this one, a young boy walks up to a man in the street, pulls a knife out on him, and a witness statement suggests that as well. So he pulls the knife out on a man in the street. The man simply disarms him, takes him to the ground, and is arrested. Merseyside Police, you're fucking stupid. You really are. How can you actually allow that to happen? How? Seriously, I hope that man sues you for false arrest. I honestly hope he sues you for false arrest. You cannot treat these kind of incidents differently. Okay, there is an offender with a knife, okay, threatening a member of the public. That member of the public has to use reasonable force, okay, to protect themselves. The man in the street simply disarmed the boy and took him to the floor. How is that not defending himself? How is that not reasonable force? People, the headline in the Echo, and the Echo, you're scum as well. Liverpool Echo, you are scum, mate, I'm telling you. How can you make that headline out to sound, it sounds like you're saying that the man has taken the knife off of the boy and then stabbed him with it, when clearly that's not the case. I understand you've got to sell newspapers, but for fuck's sake, tell the truth. Do you know what I mean? Be honest in your reports. Don't use, you know, basically clickbait titles to get people to buy your paper. People will respect you a hell of a lot more, the same as Merseyside Police and every other police force out there. Okay, people will respect you a hell of a lot more if you start being honest, okay, and start being to the point and not making out that things happen that didn't happen, because that's all you do. Absolutely. So you can tell I'm pissed off by this. I am pissed off. I can't believe how this is allowed to happen. Absolutely can't believe how this is, you know, been allowed to happen. I'm leaving it there because I'm getting wound up just talking about it now. Guys, please, I would like to know, if you was in either of those situations, would you have acted differently? Would you have, you know, if you was in that situation as the lady was in the shop and there was a baseball bat or another weapon there, would you have used it, or would you have not used it? In the street, how would you have dealt with that if somebody come up to you? Doesn't matter how old they are. This was a 15-year-old boy. I don't care if it's a 15-year-old boy or a 50-year-old man, okay? If somebody comes at you with a knife, you deal with them, in my opinion, in the way that is going to protect you and defend you, you know what I mean? But how would you deal with both of these two situations? I'd really like to know. Please leave your comments down below. Thank you once again for joining me on another video. I'm sorry about the dog snoring. I keep saying that, but I really truly am sorry about the dog snoring. Thank you all so much for your time, and I enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and I will see you again soon. So until next time.
Good night all.